do you account for, Mr. Keegan, what seems to be emerging, if we're to believe what we read in the media, that An Garda Síochána on the current sample reckon that anything up to 40% of the observations submitted were dubious or indeed fraudulent?
Well, I mean, I can't account for that, but I think we have to be clear here. I can't insist that people, it's not like a standard planning application which has to be accompanied by a fee. You don't have to declare a PPS number. So, you know, I have to accept in good faith what comes in. And the fact that we acknowledge, I would have expected if 40% of those are, let's say, dubious, that those people would have come back on, more would have come back on and said, I never sent this in. So in good faith, all we can do is acknowledge them and see if we get any feedback. And when we do get feedback, and we got feedback in 11 cases, we withdrew those from the file. So
in terms of verifying any objections or observations that are made in a case like this, the sole verification procedure is to send a communication of acknowledgement. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you consider that to be sufficient?
In the light of this particular case, I'd have to review that, but we don't have the resources, and it's not clear.
No, I'm not asking about resources. I'm asking, excuse me, Mr. Keegan, if you wouldn't mind, I'm not asking about resources. I'm asking whether or not you regard that to be a sufficient verification for objections.
In the aftermath of this, I think it raises questions about kind of an open invitation, public consultation process without any either fee required or any evidence required to be submitted with it. I think it does raise legitimate questions.
I think it raises more than that, given the fact that repeatedly in your submission today you have pointed to the concerns of residents and the objections that you received, arguably as the key reason for taking the decision that you took. I mean, arguably that's what it boiled down to for you, wasn't it?
But just be clear here, we were never guided by the sheer physical number. You know, even if, let's supposing there's some figures been quoted to me that 40% may be dubious, and some of those people are now claiming that they signed letters under pressure at public meetings. They may or may not, I don't know. But that still leaves a very significant number in respect of which the Gardaí are not questioning.
Well, so, sorry, Mr. Keegan, you repeat a number of times, not just in this document, but in the public domain, the number. It was 370.
I think there were 384 in total.
384. Yeah. So you're the person who has initiated the argument around volume rather than quality. I would have a very big concern, and I would suggest you should have a very big concern, that you do not have an adequate procedure or process to check authenticity in terms of objections that are lodged of this nature. That's not to deny the right of any resident to lodge such an objection, but given the weight that you attach clearly to these objections, surely you had a duty to ensure the bona fides, the accuracy and the validity of the submissions that were made. And I would say to you, Mr. Keegan, that you did not do that. I would suggest to you that in fact you were very negligent as a local authority in not doing that, given that this was the key point, if you like, on which your decision hinged.
Well, there's just two things. One, we don't have the authority, in my understanding, to verify, right? Apart from acknowledging. We can't demand any documentation, we can't demand any fees, so I think we're constrained to what we can do there. This is the first case, and I haven't seen any Garda report, but there are media reports. But the second issue, like, there is an implication in your question that there are no concerns to residents, and I think that flies in the face.
No, you know, there is no such implication.
Well,
there is no such.
So that even if 40%.
Mr. Keegan, the only implication in my question is as follows: if you will attach such a level of importance to public submissions, if you are going to make decisions that have big implications for the community and the city on the basis of those submissions, you are duty bound to ensure the validity and the authenticity of those submissions. That's the inference of what I'm saying to you, and I hope you're crystal clear on it.